remarkably more shocking was a month later when they called me up and out of the blue asked if I wanted the host.
At 57, Kevin O'Connor is finally ready to speak up, and fans of This Old House are leaning in. After years of whispers, the longtime host is pulling back the curtain on the rumors that have followed him. Was he ever really going to leave? Could one shocking twist have forced his hand? And why has he stayed so quiet until now? Between surprise career turns, off-screen battles, and his deep commitment to real craftsmanship, Kevin's story is full of decisions that few ever see. What happens when someone who rarely shares his personal life is faced with his own biggest spotlight? Buckle up, it's more complicated than you might expect. Kevin's surprising transition. For years, Kevin O'Connor appeared to be on a stable career path most people would envy. After earning his MBA from Boston University in 1999, he secured a coveted position at Bank of America. Moving up to the role of Senior Vice President in commercial real estate, he was responsible for structuring multi-million-dollar loans for developers and large-scale projects. By his early 30s, Kevin was living the corporate dream, a comfortable salary, steady promotions, and the kind of career that usually defines an entire lifetime. But despite the success, something deeper was missing. That something became clearer after Kevin and his wife purchased a Queen Anne Victorian home built in the late 1800s. The house was charming but also in serious disrepair, and tackling its renovation became a turning point for Kevin. Far from boardrooms and spreadsheets, he was stripping wallpaper, knocking down walls, and rebuilding spaces alongside his wife. It was exhausting work, but it ignited a long-buried passion, a hands-on connection to real materials and the bones of an old house. This wasn't a polished television set. It was his own messy, imperfect renovation. Every setback felt personal. Every small success became addictive. That passion led him to write a heartfelt, almost desperate email to the crew of This Old House. It wasn't a pitch or a grand plan. It was simply a cry for help. Little did he know that at the very same time, the show's producers were planning a spin-off series called Ask This Old House. They answered his email, came to his house to help him tackle the stubborn wallpaper, and shot a segment that aired on television. To most homeowners, this would have been an exciting one-off experience. Producers noticed that he didn't simply ask questions, he stayed curious, engaged, and genuine. That short segment led to a secret screen test and, eventually, a call offering him the hosting job. No auditions, no TV experience, just the right person at the right time, driven by authentic interest and a hunger to learn. It's fair to wonder, would Kevin ever have left his six-figure banking career if he hadn't been so captivated by that renovation? Or was this shift an inevitable outcome for someone who found purpose once he finally picked up a hammer? Either way, one simple email changed the entire course of his life forever. And just as one unexpected door swung open, another would slam shut in a way he never saw coming. Health that altered his life's direction. Long before Kevin O'Connor ever imagined himself on television, he was preparing for a very different future. Raised in a family where hands-on work was part of daily life, he had also considered serving in the military. That plan seemed to fit him perfectly. It was disciplined, practical, and a stable way to build a career. But everything changed during his military training. Kevin began experiencing troubling health symptoms, unexplained blackouts that caused him to collapse without warning. The episodes were serious enough that his instructors ordered a full medical examination. Doctors eventually discovered a heart murmur. Even though some murmurs can be harmless, Kevin's situation was serious enough to raise questions about his fitness for military service. The stakes felt incredibly high. Could he stay in the program? Would his career goals evaporate overnight? He suddenly faced a future far less certain than the one he had been working toward. But the most confusing part of this story is what happened next, or rather, what failed to happen. After that diagnosis, Kevin tried to access his full medical records to plan his next steps, but those records had vanished. The paperwork that could have helped him make sense of his condition was nowhere to be found. There was no clear trail, no obvious reason why these important files had disappeared. It left him with more questions than answers. Why would critical documents simply go missing? Could someone have decided his case wasn't worth pursuing further? Or was it an administrative error? Even decades later, that missing paperwork would continue to haunt him, creating roadblocks every time he sought to understand his own health history. That health scare forced him to reevaluate his entire future. If he couldn't count on a military career, then what other options did he have? That single event became the reason he focused so intensely on his education, first earning a history degree and then an MBA. It pushed him to develop skills outside the realm of physical labor, opening doors into finance and real estate. It's fair to wonder whether Kevin would ever have built the career that eventually led him to television without that health crisis. Would his path have been entirely different if he hadn't been forced to pivot? Looking back, that unexplained murmur and the lost records surrounding it changed the trajectory of his life forever. The This Old House discovery. When Kevin O'Connor and his wife purchased a Queen Anne Victorian home built in 1894, they thought they had found their dream house. Its intricate woodwork and grand facade held obvious charm, but beneath the surface were serious issues: crumbling plaster, outdated wiring, and a long list of repairs that would overwhelm most homeowners. The couple embraced the challenge at first, but the reality set in quickly. Every time they peeled back a layer of wallpaper or pulled up a floorboard, they uncovered more work than they ever expected. It wasn't a gentle introduction to homeownership, it was a crash course in restoration. One particular job left them truly stuck, removing decades' worth of stubborn wallpaper. Every layer was sealed with paint or paste, creating a nightmare that resisted all conventional tools and techniques. Kevin, exhausted and frustrated, did what most of us do in moments of desperation. He searched for help, but his search took a different turn. Instead of just looking up a local contractor, he decided to reach out directly to This Old House, a show he had admired for years. It was a long shot, a cold email sent on a hunch, hoping someone on the production team might offer a tip or trick. That one line turned the tide. It turned out the producers were looking for real homeowners to come feature in a yet-to-be-scheduled spin-off of the show called Ask This Old House, which would answer viewer questions. Lucky for Kevin, the timing was perfect. They then came around to meet him at his home, helped him tear down the wallpaper, and filmed the whole segment. What seemed like a quick, practical visit at first grew to be much larger. During that whole shooting, he asked smart questions, listened keenly to the crew, and had that effortless naturality that was caught by the camera team. And so, the very first time on TV turned into soft, casual screen testing, a trial run to see if Kevin could hold his own as something more than just a homeowner needing some help. It worked. Although he had no previous television experience, his curiosity and real interest shone through. All it took for him to get into the business was a slammed renovation, an email sent in the spirit of finding a solution, and the very fortuitous timing of a new show. That has launched his career on an unlikely path that few could have foreseen, earning trust by getting his hands dirty. When Kevin O'Connor first stepped into his role as host of This Old House, it was clear to everyone involved that he had more to prove than most. Unlike his predecessors, who had years of hands-on experience before picking up a microphone, Kevin was a banker by trade. It would have been easy for the crew and the viewers to dismiss him as someone who was simply there to narrate the work. Instead, Kevin made a deliberate choice from the start. Rather than stand back and describe what was happening, he jumped into the trenches with the crew, determined to do the real work. That hands-on attitude was immediately put to the test by the show's no-nonsense experts. Richard Trethewey, the plumbing and heating guru, and Tom Silva, the veteran contractor, weren't going to make anything easier just because Kevin was new. Richard handed him a shovel, set him to digging trenches for sewer lines, and let him sweat alongside the team. Tom put tools in his hands and had him cut actual lumber for real builds, not fake setups for television. Kevin quickly learned that this wasn't a scripted environment. The mistakes, the challenges, and the hard work were all part of earning their respect, and that respect wasn't given overnight. Early episodes show him figuring things out the hard way, stripping paint, hauling debris, and making small but meaningful contributions to every project. Viewers watching at home could see that this wasn't an actor or a personality putting on a show. Kevin was making himself useful in whatever way he could. The authenticity of those first seasons helped the audience connect with him, and the crew began to recognize him as one of their own. It was an unglamorous apprenticeship, but it was exactly what he needed. That grounded, hands-on approach set the tone for the rest of his career. Kevin never pretended to have all the answers, and that honesty became one of his strengths. Audiences appreciated watching him improve alongside the pros, and over time, his questions grew deeper and his skills more confident. Even years later, long after he had proven himself, those early lessons of earning trust through real work remained the foundation of his style as a host. Whether he was planning boards or just handing off tools, Kevin had earned his place on the team, becoming more than just a host. When Kevin O'Connor first took the hosting position at This Old House, few people outside the production team expected him to make waves in the home improvement world. The crew tested him, the viewers sized him up, and he worked hard to establish his place. What nobody could have predicted was that only a year into his new career, Kevin would receive an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Service Show Host. Coming in 2004, the recognition was not just an honor, it was an early sign that his authentic style was resonating with a wider audience. That nomination was especially surprising because Kevin had no formal background in television. Unlike past hosts who had decades of carpentry or broadcast experience, he was new to this kind of spotlight. Some questioned whether the nod was premature. Was the industry rewarding him too quickly? Or was it a sign that he brought something truly different? Rumors about his qualifications swirled, but one thing was clear to everyone watching. Kevin had a natural ability to connect with people. Viewers weren't just seeing a polished presenter, they were seeing someone learning alongside them. In the years that followed, Kevin built on that early momentum by shifting into a more hands-on role. Whereas a passive guide was supposed to lead the team into the different avenues, he got down to the nitty-gritty with the particular process himself. Be it framing walls, mixing concrete, or even getting into fine finish work, he spent some time trying to internalize other skills properly. The effort showed on screen. Not only did fans appreciate him as a host, but someone who respected the carpet as well. So much so that every Emmy nomination afterward felt even less like a stroke of luck than proof that his methods were working. That transformation shaped his long-term impact on This Old House. The nomination had given him credibility early on, but it was his steady commitment to earning respect that mattered most. Each time he crossed the threshold to a set or picked up a tool, he reinforced the trust those viewers had placed in him. Even decades from that first surprising nod, those lessons continued to guide him. Whether he ever wins another award or not, Kevin has proven that real authenticity and real skill are worth all of the trophies put together. And that's probably why so many people keep tuning into his show to see what he'll do next. Yet even as the accolades rolled in, there was one corner of the industry Kevin refused to embrace: taking a stand. Over the years, Kevin O'Connor has never been one to hold back when discussing the state of home improvement television. Unlike the glossy, fast-paced makeover shows that populate most cable networks, This Old House has always focused on real craftsmanship and careful restoration. Kevin believes there's a clear difference between these two approaches. In interviews, he's called out the fake elements that drive so many of those entertainment-driven programs, describing them as more interested in flashy results than teaching viewers anything practical. His remarks haven't always been popular. HGTV and similar networks have built empires around quick, dramatic renovations that wow audiences but rarely reflect the realities of time, budget, or skill. Kevin has argued that this style can mislead homeowners into believing they can gut and rebuild a kitchen over a weekend or tackle complex electrical work after watching a few episodes. In his view, those kinds of shows can set people up for failure. Some professionals have even agreed, pointing out that many of these programs skip over key safety steps or hide the true costs of a project. It's not hard to see why Kevin feels a responsibility to speak up. That honesty has come with a cost. Other TV hosts and fans of fast-paced renovation shows have pushed back, calling Kevin elitist or suggesting that his comments unfairly knock the competition. Industry observers have wondered if this stance might make him some enemies in a business built on partnerships and appearances. Yet Kevin seems unbothered. Viewers who appreciate deeper, more informative content have rallied behind him, praising him for putting expertise ahead of entertainment. It's fair to ask, will this tension ever boil over into a larger debate in the industry, or will it continue to simmer as part of the ongoing split between education-focused shows like This Old House and their more commercial counterparts? Whatever happens, Kevin's commitment to quality has only grown stronger over time. Even as more renovation-themed entertainment hits the airwaves, he continues to advocate for honesty, context, and real skill. For him, the goal isn't ratings or glitzy transformations, it's making sure people understand the craft itself. And while not everyone agrees with his blunt style, there's no denying that Kevin's stand is a reminder of the show's deeper purpose, to teach viewers what home improvement really requires. Beyond TV. Long after Kevin O'Connor had proven himself as the face of This Old House, his influence began reaching well beyond the television screen. By the time fans had gotten used to seeing him on PBS every week, Kevin was working on a new project that would solidify his voice in the home renovation world, co-authoring The Best Homes from This Old House. Published in 2011, the book was a collaboration with his college friend and photographer, Mike Casey. Together, they created a behind-the-scenes look at some of the most memorable projects and stunning homes featured on the show over the years. The book wasn't just a photo collection, it was also an extension of the careful, educational tone that had defined This Old House since its early days. Readers didn't just flip through glossy images, they learned about the restoration choices, the materials used, and the challenges faced at each stage. Kevin and Mike's attention to detail reflected the show's commitment to teaching people the real craft behind every nail driven. It became a favorite among fans who wanted to appreciate the depth and history behind each renovation. And it showed that Kevin could do much more than introduce a segment or narrate an episode. The initial book got him that opportunity to be a much bigger part of the editorial board for This Old House magazine. Besides being a host in a show, Kevin could actively help in shaping the magazine, matter from the renovation stories to print through the tone of every issue. It has made readers recognize his byline alongside the show's most trusted experts, and as such, a careful editorial process will guarantee the copy will stay true to the original educational mission. It was but one more sign that Kevin was keeping the integrity of This Old House intact for every platform, seen, read, or browsed. Today, however, Kevin's influence goes well beyond the confines of the television screen. Fans often wonder what keeps him moving forward into other mediums. Is it personal interest in writing and publishing, or does he truly believe in teaching a person wherever they are? It doesn't really matter, though, because in either case, his efforts have added a very strong voice to This Old House on paper and on the internet to match the dedication of the program to honest, hands-on skill. And as long as Kevin is around, that voice can only grow stronger. Expanding the legacy. As This Old House evolved beyond its traditional TV format, Kevin O'Connor was quick to recognize that modern audiences were moving toward new kinds of content. In 2019, he spearheaded the launch of Clear Story, a podcast that went deeper into the history of homes and the building industry. Unlike a typical home improvement show, the podcast featured long-form interviews and thorough research into the stories behind notable houses and restoration techniques. Viewers who had followed him on television suddenly had a new way to connect, one that fit into their commute or weekend project time. It also proved that the show's commitment to education could succeed in a completely different medium. That embrace of new technology didn't stop there. Kevin also co-founded This Old Toolbox, a tool rental platform built for do-it-yourselfers who wanted access to high-quality equipment without buying it outright. This practical online service reflected his deep understanding of what real homeowners need, extending the show's philosophy into the hands of people working on their own projects. It wasn't about creating a flashy app, it was about making sure homeowners had the right tools to do the job properly. Fans appreciated that this initiative felt like a natural next step, further blurring the line between the show's on-screen content and real-world action. In 2021, Kevin transformed This Old House into an online streaming program. Every historical episode of This Old House and Ask This Old House was made available on demand by the New York company through a partnership with Roku without needing a traditional cable subscription, allowing a new generation to discover the program. Even more significantly, they launched a live channel that was going to keep on running 24/7 for viewers who wanted to watch continuous programming. That move was bold, but smart, because it recognized trends from the audience who will increasingly expect to be able to access content at their convenience and from any device. Rumors circulated at the time that the show would ultimately produce special episodes only available on streaming, a possibility that still very much feels on the table. Through podcasts and tech-driven ways of doing things like streaming partnerships, Kevin has shown that This Old House is much more than a televised program. It's an evolving educational brand. So unfortunately, with that ongoing expansion, keeping the brand new audience had always been made possible while remaining an authentic and hands-on voice. So, raises the interesting question. Kevin going to continue pushing to tap into other formats as media habits change? Given his record so far, it wouldn't be surprising to see him embrace whatever platform comes next, as long as it stays true to the craft at the heart of This Old House. Steering the show, major cast changes. Over the past 2 decades, This Old House has been shaped as much by its hosts as by the houses they restore. Kevin O'Connor stepped into a show that already had well-known personalities like Norm Abram and Roger Cook, craftsmen whose skill and presence had defined the series for years. When both eventually stepped back from their regular on-screen roles, Kevin was faced with the delicate task of balancing respect for their legacy with a need to keep the show moving forward. It was not an easy challenge. Audiences had grown attached to these figures and might have wondered whether the program could feel the same without them. Norm Abram, who had been on This Old House since its very first episode in '79, announced his retirement in 2022. Roger Cook had stepped away earlier due to health issues. Both left big shoes to fill. Kevin handled these departures with an emphasis on gratitude and transparency, making sure viewers understood the contributions they had made over the decades. On social media and in interviews, Kevin spoke often about the standards Norm and Roger had set. He assured longtime fans that those standards would remain the show's foundation. Rumors swirled about whether such iconic roles could ever truly be replaced. But Kevin's message was clear. Honoring the past was his top priority. This commitment to continuity shaped the welcoming of new talent, such as landscape designer Jen Nawada, and other new professionals who brought in fresh skills and different perspectives. Kevin understood that they could not replace the old crew. Rather, he concentrated on encouraging the newer members to find their voices, keeping with the educational, hands-on style that had always characterized This Old House. It is not about coming up with Roger or Norm clones. It is encouraging that everyone else who comes on the show has something valid to contribute. Viewers registered this sensitive balance, fresh energy, yet accessible to the audience's departed reference point. Such careful stewardship has kept This Old House stable amid fluctuations, allowing it to evolve without losing its core identity. While understated, Kevin's role has been absolutely critical. By honoring the past as new talent emerged, he kept the audience's interest year after year. the audience might begin to ask what other surprises may lie ahead, new faces, new skills, or new kinds of projects. But one thing is clear: as long as Kevin is at the helm, this old house will keep moving forward without forgetting where it came from. And in doing so, Kevin ensures that every chapter of the show feels like a natural next step rather than a break from tradition. That balance between respect for yesterday and openness to tomorrow is what will keep this old house going strong for years to come. Still, not every part of Kevin's world ended up under the bright light of television. Some pieces he chose to keep all to himself. Balancing personal privacy. Despite 2 decades on national television, Kevin O'Connor has always kept much of his personal life off-screen. Unlike some public figures who invite cameras into every part of their world, Kevin rarely shares details about his family or home life. This old house viewers know him as a curious host who respects the craft, but they rarely see him as a husband or father. Fans have sometimes wondered what keeps him so private. Could it be a deliberate choice to protect his loved ones from public scrutiny, or simply a way to draw a firm line between his public role and his private world? Either way, that boundary has become one of his defining traits. Those who have followed Kevin's career closely will recognize that his commitment to privacy doesn't come from a lack of enthusiasm for his personal interests. Away from work, Kevin is known to be passionate about hands-on projects at home and even enjoys less conventional pastimes like hot air ballooning. Occasionally, he'll mention these interests in passing during interviews or on the show, but they never become a focus. This balance is part of what viewers seem to appreciate most: his ability to share enough to feel genuine without turning his personal life into entertainment. On the other hand, such measured thought might actually indicate his more generalized perspective on the old house. He often says that the work, the houses, the trades, and even the process itself deserve to be in the spotlight. Perhaps the fact that he mostly keeps his private life off camera is his way to ensure that the show stays focused on its intended purpose: teaching people about restoration and repair. Rumors sometimes arise as to whether he would one day or another give a bit more away, or whether subsequent seasons might offer more behind-the-scenes peeks at his family and hobbies. Up until now, though, Kevin has stuck to his tradition of keeping private matters private. This sense of restraint feels increasingly rare in a world where lots of public figures appear perfectly happy to divulge every last little detail of their lives. Of course, many fans would want a little more access to their idol. In this case, however, it would strengthen the authenticity of the very program itself. This old house, after all, is about craft and learning, not about the limelight. One should leave that open as to whether or not that philosophy would change with the advent of new media formats, platforms, etc. But so far, Kevin's approach has shown that preserving privacy can go hand in hand with building a lasting connection with audiences. That commitment to drawing a clear boundary may also serve as a reminder that not every personal story needs to be part of the public one. In a television landscape often driven by oversharing and spectacle, Kevin's restraint reinforces that substance can speak louder than spectacle. It suggests that a host doesn't have to bear every detail to earn viewers' trust sometimes. Respecting one's own privacy is the most authentic way to keep the focus where it truly belongs. His approach offers a refreshing counterpoint to the current trend of confessional media. In doing so, he proves that dignity and discretion still have a place in modern storytelling. And that's Kevin O'Connor's story so far. One full of unexpected pivots, quiet dedication, and real hands-on grit. If you enjoyed this inside look, hit that like button. Leave a comment with your favorite part, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive. Stick around. The next video you see on screen is one you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.